Friday, I've got to go out and gather all this data. Maybe it's from various systems or it's from various users. You've got all these lists of data from these different locations. I now need to bring that into Excel. I need to clean it up. I need to uniform it, make it look uniform. I need to make it look consistent, formatting and formulas and sorting and filtering and so on and so on. And then I need to create some calculations based on that data. I need to spit out a final report based off that data with key formulas, key values, charts, pivot tables, whatever it might be. One button press, and I can get my work done for me. It's all about automation. I want to automate the user's experience or my experience inside of Excel. That's what Excel VBA and macros is all about. That's the why, automation. Now, how about the how? Well, this is great. I want to be able to automate my experience. I want to be able to save time. I want to be able to save money and automate my experience inside of Excel. Well, how do I do that? Well, there's a couple of different ways for you to be able to automate your experience through macros and VBA. The first one is, and this is going to be done inside of our first project, is we're going to talk about the macro recorder. You go into Excel, say, hey Excel, I want you to record, you hit a little button, I want you to record whatever actions I'm about to perform. Excel says, great, okay, I'll start recording you. You hit the record button, you fill out a little bit of a form, not much, say, okay Excel, I'm ready. You start doing stuff inside of Excel. You click on menu commands, you move your cursor around, you click inside of his cells, you delete, you add data, you do whatever it is that you want to do. As you're doing this, Excel is silently in the background writing down everything that you're doing. It's recording your actions. So that later on, when you want to perform those same steps again, you hit the button, say Excel, you wrote it down before, go ahead and play my recording. And it will replay all of those actions again. This is one of the hows, and this is perhaps the quickest, easiest way to start automating inside of Excel. Now, we can also get into the VBA code. This is really what the macro recorder does, is it writes down, it creates all the VBA code for you. You can go into there afterwards, you can modify it, you can create VBA code from scratch. Write it yourself. And we're going to do both during this course. We'll talk about the macro recorder, quick, easy, get up and running, start automating your experience, and we're going to talk about writing your own VBA code. Now, we'll talk about VBA concepts. We're going to talk about looping structures. You want to get something to happen multiple times. You want to create logical statements. If this happens, then do this, that type of stuff. You want to be able to control the flow of your code. We'll talk about key concepts that'll help you do that. And we'll also talk about variables, another very important concept within programming in general, but VBA specifically here. We'll talk about how to create dynamic code. Perhaps you're importing that data every Friday. Remember to create that final report. And now some weeks you got more data or less data. Well, I need to be able to create macros or procedures, VBA code, that will accommodate for differences in my data. So we'll talk about creating dynamic stuff. Write it once, reuse it. You don't want to have to reinvent the wheel every time you want to complete a task. So we'll talk about reusable code. Just that. Don't reinvent the wheel. Create it once, make it dynamic enough that you can reuse it in multiple situations, multiple scenarios. So we'll talk about key concepts to help you do that as well. Now we're going to go through 7 projects and we're going to see all of this in action. Macro recorder, writing your own code. We'll talk about VBA concept, make sure that we're all up on the same level playing field, and we'll talk about how you can save time and money as you work inside of Excel, all by using a little bit of VBA magic.
In this section, we're going to be taking a look at recording a macro to automate a series of tasks inside of your Microsoft Excel worksheets. So to start out, before we jump in and start to record a macro, I'm going to give you a quick little preview of what you're going to create and how you can automate your experience. So open in front of you, I've got an example file. You're going to download this in an upcoming lecture. But for now, sit back, relax, and I'm going to describe what you're about to learn and create inside of Excel macros. So inside of this workbook, I've got a simple little list. Not much to it. It's got 6 headers in there, but this could be 20, 30, 100 headers, whatever it is. It's got a handful of records. You can see from row 4 down to 17. But once again, it could be hundreds or thousands of records. Now what I need to do is clean it up a little. I need to add some headers. So inside of row 3, I need to put in some headers there, like region, expense, the months, the total, right? Put some headers in there, format them, make them look presentable. And this block of data right here, that should be currency formatting. So there's a few steps, right? I didn't count them, but however many steps you got there to complete that series of tasks. Well, what you're going to do in this section of the course is create a macro so that when you hit a button on your keyboard, a single press, it'll do all of that for you. Done. One button press. Automate your experience. It's something that you do often. Maybe this is a report that you create daily or weekly or whatever it is. You now hit a button and your time is done. Excel does all the work for you. You got to record it the first time. You got to go there, format them, make them look presentable. And this block of data right here, that should be currency formatting. So there's a few steps, right? I didn't count them, but however many steps you got there to complete that series of tasks. Well, what you're going to do in this section of the course is create a macro so that when you hit a button on your keyboard, a single press, it'll do all of that for you. Done. One button press. Automate your experience. It's something that you do often. Maybe this is a report that you create daily or weekly or whatever it is. You now hit a button and your time is done. Excel does all the work for you. You got to record it the first time. You got to go through the steps manually at least once. But once you've done it once, you then just hit a button and Excel does all the work for you. So I've already done this. I've already created the macro. I'm going to run it right here so you can see just how quickly adding headers and formatting is done with the macro. So it doesn't matter where I click. I can click anywhere inside this worksheet, but I created a macro and I gave it a shortcut key on my keyboard. The shortcut key that I used was Control L. Look at that. Done. Done. It added the headers, region, expense type, January, February, March, total. It did the formatting. It highlighted this group of cells and applied the currency format to it. But it did it all for me in a single button press. Huge. Right? You bring in your list, you're done. Right? You can tell all your coworkers and your boss that you spent all day doing this. It took me forever to clean this up and make it look good. In reality, you created a macro and you hit a button and it did it for you. And now you get time to go on your break, go take your lunch, go home early, whatever it is. The macros, I love them. One of my favorite features in all of Excel. If I can automate something and save me time, right? Take something off my plate, hit a button, done. I'm in. I'm all in, right? So get ready. Next few lectures, we're going to go over and see how you can do this, how you can automate your experience inside of Excel. In order for us to take full advantage of Excel's macros and VBA, we're going to activate a new Excel tab on the ribbon. This is the Excel Developer tab. And to activate it, it's really simple to do. Now, in the 2010 and newer editions of Excel, what I'm about to do here will work in any of those. If you're in 2007 of Excel, it's going to be a slightly different process, but I'll describe where it's at. So in the 2010 and newer, what you're going to do, I'm just going to go into any workbook, doesn't matter, but if you've got the example file open already, you can hop into there, go to the ribbon. I'm going to right click on one of the tabs. It doesn't matter where, just as long as you're on one of those tabs. And one of the options is going to be customize the ribbon. So right click a tab, customize ribbon. Inside the Excel options window, you can see I'm on the customize ribbon option. And here, customize ribbon. I'm just going to go in 2007 and process at. So in the 2010 and newer, what you're going to do, I'm just going to go into any workbook, doesn't matter, but if you've got the example file open already, you can hop into there, go to the ribbon. I'm going to right click on one of the tabs. It doesn't matter where, just as long as you're on one of those tabs. And one of the options is going to be customize the ribbon. So right click a tab, customize ribbon. Inside the Excel options window, you can see I'm on the customize ribbon option. And here on the right hand side, you've got all the tabs, all the tabs that are built into Excel by default. But my developer tab is not currently active. It's just not checked. So I'm going to go ahead and give that a check. I'll hit OK. And I've now got the developer tab on my Excel ribbon. And we're going to talk about a few of the features on this tab. Now, like I mentioned, this is for the 2010 and newer releases of Excel. Just right click one of the tabs, customize the ribbon, and turn on developer. If you're in the 2007 edition of Excel, you will go to the Office button up in the top left corner. You'll go down to Excel Options, and on the Popular category, you turn on Excel's Developer. 2003, it's turn on the developer. So, get it going about automating our experience in Excel. So let's take a look at how we can utilize Excel's built-in feature, the macro recorder to automate some of our tasks as we work inside of Excel. In this example, we're going to take a look at adding headers and formatting headers and some of the content inside of this worksheet right here. Now, I want to encourage you to download the example file. This one here is called inserting and formatting text.xlsx. It's an Excel file. Inside of here, there are 3 worksheets: East records, run macro, and run with buttons, or run with button, run with a button, whatever it is. So these 3 little worksheets. We're going to focus on this lecture on the first one here, East records. The other 2, we'll get into those as we continue through this section of the course. So let's crack open the macro recorder and start to automate this task. So my first step, I've got the workbook open. I'm going to go up to my developer tab, top of my screen, and on my developer tab there is a section called code. Now we're going to focus on each of these buttons as we continue through this portion of this course, but for right now we are going to focus on the record macro command. So I'll give that a click, record macro. This will open up your little interface to do the initial setup for the macro that you're about to record. So our first step, we get to give the macro a name. So I'm going to call this add format headers. Okay. Now a couple of key things to take away from your macro name. One, the macro names will not allow spaces. No spaces in them. You can see here that I just kind of strung it all together. I did what's you might hear referred to as camel casing, where the first letter of each word is uppercase and then lowercase, uppercase and then lowercase, and so on. So it makes it a little bit easier to read, but no spaces. You can have numbers, numeric values inside your macro names, but the macro name itself cannot start with the number. You can have some special characters inside the macro names, but I tend to just stay away from them. Because there's some special characters that you cannot include inside the macro name. So I typically just stay away from special characters. I try to keep them text values. You want to keep them short. They can be up to 255 characters, but I think that's a bit too much information inside of a single macro or procedure name. So keep them short, but try to be direct. Allow people to look at it and right away realize that, oh, this is what this macro is going to do for us. So no spaces, stay away from special characters just as a general rule, and up to 255 characters, but keep them short, concise, to the point, easy to read. Now, the next thing that we get here is how you're going to run the macro. Now, there's actually multiple ways to be able to activate a macro once you've created it. One of them is a shortcut key. Another one is that we'll see later on is we can create buttons inside the Excel workbook itself, like someplace out on the worksheet, or we can modify the quick access toolbar or ribbon to place buttons there for favorite macros that you create. So, but for right now, a shortcut key. Now, you do want to be careful here. You don't want to use a shortcut key that Excel already uses. So for example, if I do Control S, the letter S, Well, what does that do? Control S, right? Most applications have this one. This is your save command. I don't want to use that because that will overwrite the save command inside of your Excel interface. So, and it'll run your macro instead. So you want to be careful of that. Use something that has not been used or something that you really don't care about. They are optional. You don't have to use a shortcut key. You can, like I mentioned, you can use buttons inside the interface as well, and Excel's got a way for you to get to the macros itself already built in. So it is optional, but I like shortcut keys. I'm going to use L, Control and the letter L. Now I did a lowercase l there because if I do Shift L, then my shortcut key then becomes Control Shift L. Okay? So you do have the benefit there of utilizing the Shift key in combination with the Control key as well. So I'll leave that up to you. Just remember what you use here. If you use anything at all, Control L is what I'll use. The next option that we have here is where we're going to store the macro. Now this really, depending on where you select or where you choose to store the macro, is where you're going to get access to the macro, where you're going to be able to use it. Currently it says this workbook, meaning this workbook, the insert and formatting text workbook. If I store it here, I can use it in this workbook or if this workbook is open. Now if this workbook is not open on my computer, then I can't use the macro here because it's stored in that workbook. You do have two other options. You've got a personal macro workbook. Now the benefit here is if I record a macro and store it in the personal macro workbook, it is available anytime I have Excel open on my computer. Doesn't matter what workbook I have open, it's always open, it's in the background, and I can access the macros. from the personal macro workbook. Now that's great because there might be some macros that you're going to reuse across multiple files. We'll store it in the personal one, and that's always available to you on your system, your copy of Excel. The other option that we have here is a new workbook. This will create a new workbook at time of recording and place the macro in there. The benefit of that one is you could store maybe some common related macros all inside of their own workbook. But in order to use it, you've got to open up that workbook. All right. For us right now, I'm going to leave it at this workbook, the active workbook. And then we can leave a little notes, a description. This macro does A, B, and C. This is great because if you share your file with someone and they want to look at your macro and they want to understand what it does, well, you can leave a descriptive note about what the macro does. I'm just going to say something simple to keep this short and sweet. So I'll say places headers and formats content. There we go. All right, so just a handful of little things, get it set up. Now, here comes the magic. I'm going to hit OK, and once I do, it is now recording. So anything I do in the Excel interface, it will record it and write it down. Okay? That way, later on, when you rerun the recording, it'll perform those same steps again. So this is great, but it's also something you want to be careful of, because literally anything you do, you click in a cell, you click on a command, you click on a different worksheet, you minimize Excel, you open up another workbook, it will record all of those commands. All right, so do be careful, but a great feature. So I'm going to hit OK, and you'll notice down at the bottom of my screen, left-hand side, I've now got a little square down there. This is your stop button. When you're all done with the recording, you can click that button or go back to the developer tab and hit the stop recording button right there. So we are in recording. Now, a common question I get at this point is, time doesn't matter. Does not matter. Okay, so if I sit here and I just let the recording go, it's not recording how long it takes me to do something. It's just recording the literal steps, the literal commands that I run inside of the Excel interface. So with that said, let's jump up to cell A3. I'm going to type in region, and I'm just going to tab over, and we've got expense, and then we've got 3 months here: January, February, and March, and then I'll do a total. So now I've got each of my headers there, okay? And I just clicked inside of A3, typed it in, used my tab key, typed in, tabbed over, typed in, and so on. Now in the background, Excel is busy recording, writing down everything I've done. So next thing I want to do here is I'll do a little bit of formatting. I'm going to select those headers, and let's see, I'll go to my home tab, and I'm going to make them bold. I'll change the background color. Maybe I'll change that font color. That's looking pretty good. Maybe I'll add a bottom border. You know, whatever you like to do, but perform a few steps there to format those headers. Now, one more thing. I'm now going to select from C4 down to F17. I'm just going to grab that data right there because I want to format this as a currency. So with that selected, back to my home tab, underneath the number section, I'm just going to hit the currency marker there. And done. So now I've done a bit of formatting here. Now I do want to point something out. We clicked inside of a specific cell to start. We clicked inside of cell A3, literally clicked into that cell, right? There was something else selected, but I clicked into that cell. By doing that, Excel, the first thing it did was said, oh, they just clicked inside of and selected cell A3 and wrote that down. Okay, and then we moved over to the next cell and so on. It's wrote it all down. We also selected a group of cells here, right? What is that? C4 to F17, and we formatted that group of cells. But Excel, again, wrote down, oh, you selected these cells. So I want you to remember that because it's going to come back to us, right? We're going to need to make some adjustments to make this a little more dynamic a little bit more reusable. So put that in the back of your head. We're going to come back to those steps right there. So try this out first. Do a little bit of recording and get some formatting inside there. Oh, and when you're all done with the recording, you want to stop recording. So back to my developer tab. I'm going to hit the stop recording button. Boom, done. You can see that little box down below went away for me. I'm no longer recording here. All right, try it out. And then the next thing we're going to take a look at is rerunning the macro that you just created. So now that you've got your macro recorded, we can now try it out. How do you run a macro? Well, like I mentioned earlier, there's multiple ways for you to do it. You can create shortcut keys, like we saw earlier when you first initialize the recording. You assign it a book itself. You can put buttons up inside the Excel interface, like the one here. I created, in case I did Control L. Well, to do this, we recorded this on the East Records worksheet. So that one's already done, right? That was kind of our guinea pig. That's where we did the recording. Now, I'm going to hop over to the Run Macro worksheet, and we've got the same setup here, right? Same data, East Records, same 1, 2, 3, 6 columns that we have there, and so on. So now I'm just going to run the macro. So on my keyboard, I used Control L. You can remember back to you recording your macro. If you use a shortcut key, remember that, and you can press it now. So I'm going to press Control L, and it's ran my macro. Look at that. How awesome. How awesome is that? One button press, one keyboard button press, and it did all of those steps for me. I didn't count them earlier, but I inserted text. There were 6 values there, so there's already 6 steps. I did some formatting. I think I did maybe 4, so now there's 10 different steps that I did there, and I formatted the currency amounts there and selected that data. So all of those commands all brought down and put into this macro that'll help me automate the experience inside of Excel. Now, I assigned the shortcut key Control L earlier. If you can't remember what your shortcut key is, if you want to modify the shortcut key, or maybe you didn't assign a shortcut key and now you wish to assign a shortcut key, take a look. So I'm still inside the same workbook. This is where we recorded the macro. I'll go to my developer tab, and on the left hand side I'm going to go into macros right there, macros. Give that a click. So inside of there I've got my single macro that I created called add format headers, right? You can find the one you created with it selected. Lower right hand corner I've got an option or a button for options. I can give that a click, and inside of there I can see the shortcut key that I assigned, Control L. I can change it here. I can see the descriptive notes. I've got all of it right here, and it's editable. I can do whatever I need to with it. So again, if you weren't able to remember the shortcut key, or you want to modify it or add it or get rid of it, you can do it all right here. I'm just going to cancel and cancel out of there. So we recorded a macro, and we've now tested it. We've been able to run the macro and see some real live automation taking place. This is something kind of small. It's not huge, 10 steps that we had inside there, but very cool. If this is something you do regularly, gathering data from other users, from other systems, bringing them into Excel, and now you need to start formatting them and cleaning it up, it's huge. It's going to save you so much time, so much manual process that you go through, just automating it through a macro. So make sure you try it out. Get in there, jump over to Run Macro worksheet, and run your shortcut key. Oh, one more thing. If a shortcut key is just not your thing, we're going to talk about buttons here in a moment, but we could also, developer tab, macros, you can select your macro, and you got a run button right there. So whatever your flavor is, whatever you like to do, you've got options to be able to run it. So try it out, run your macro, and then sit back and relax and enjoy all the time that you're going to free up by automating your Excel experience. As I mentioned in the earlier lecture, I love shortcut keys. right? I can hit a button on my keyboard and get something to happen, whether that's built-in shortcut keys in Excel or shortcut keys that we assign to macros. But one of the downsides of shortcut keys is I've got to remember them. I've got to memorize all these different shortcut keys. I already have a hard enough time doing that just for my favorite commands inside of Excel. But now I got to create macros and assign shortcut keys to those and then remember those. I don't know. I don't know, right? They're great, but you got to remember them. You know, for me, I got little sticky notes, right? Reminding me of the favorite shortcut keys that I use. Right? Or maybe you're sharing the file with somebody else and now they got to remember the shortcut key. Well, there's other ways to run the macros as well, not just shortcut keys. Buttons are great. Provide a nice little interface to be able to click on that would then activate and run your macro. So we're going to take a look at here two different ways to create buttons inside the Excel interface. There's going to be pros and cons of both options, and we'll talk about those as well. So first off, still inside the same workbook, inserting formatting text. I'm going to hop over to Run with a Button worksheet, and here I'm going to place a button. This is the first option that you have to adding buttons to the Excel interface to run your macro. I'm going to place a button directly on the workbook, no, on the worksheet. To do that, I'll go to my Developer tab, top of the screen, and inside of there you got a section called Controls, and one of the options is for Insert. There's several different types of controls that you can insert, but I'm going to go into Insert, and the very first one you have there, you got Form Controls, but the first one you got looks like a little rectangle, got kind of a shadow behind it, but that's your button control. If I just hover my mouse over it, see if I can get it. Button Form Control. So I'm just going to give that a click. I'm going to go out to my worksheet somewhere. I'm just going to left click and drag, create the size of that button, and then I'll let go. Now as soon as I let go of that mouse button, I get my Assign Macro window. Here I'll select my Add Format Headers, and I'm going to hit OK. And this creates my nice little button. So I can highlight that text. I'm going to replace it. Let's just say headers. That's all I'm going to call it. And I'll click away from that button. So I've now got a button on the worksheets that when I click that button, it'll add headers to my content. It'll rerun the macro just like it did earlier. So let me try it out here. I'll give that button a click. You can see I got kind of that little finger icon there. Give that a click. Done. Done. It makes me giddy every time. Right? You even something simple like this. You record your steps. One button press. One button press. Done. Done. I now got a button on your button control. If I just hover my mouse over it, see if I can get it. Button Form Control. So I'm just going to give that a click. I'm going to go out to my worksheet somewhere. I'm just going to left click and drag, create the size of that button, and then I'll let go. Now as soon as I let go of that mouse button, I get my Assign Macro window. Here I'll select my Add Format Headers, and I'm going to hit OK. And this creates my nice little button. So I can highlight that text. I'm going to replace it. Let's just say headers. That's all I'm going to call it. And I'll click away from that button. So I've now got a button on the worksheets that when I click that button, it'll add headers to my content. It'll rerun the macro just like it did earlier. So let me try it out here. I'll give that button a click. You can see I got kind of that little finger icon there. Give that a click. Done. Done. It makes me giddy every time. Right? You even something simple like this. You record your steps. One button press. One button press. Done. Done. I can go to lunch on time. I can go home on time. So much time. So much time. So a nice little button right there to do all of that work for you. Very cool. Now, like I said, there's pros and cons to each type of button that you can create. The pro here, you got a nice button. The disadvantage, the button is there. I go to the East records, no button there. Macro, it's automation. What it does is something you're going to reuse across different regions or best quite a bit. Click on it, it'll run the button. So I right clicked on it to be able to get that selection around there. But I'll go to my home tab and you can see that things like my colors and borders and whatnot are laid out. There's not a whole lot. Put a button out there. So in the previous, I want to change the alignment. So underneath, all done. All right, save you so much time. And now you got, so you've got time, and now you got a nice look. We can change the font, and we can use Excel shape. We insert tab, and on the insert tab I got a section called illustrations, and one of the options is shapes. Now you may have used shapes in the past. There's all sorts of shapes, ovals and rectangles and arrows. Then I'll go to edit text, and I'm just, so you've got multiple ways interface for you to work in. So you got multiple ways to do it, and you've got just a standard interface such as the developer tab, macros. From here you can select your macro and you can run it from here. So again, you got multiple ways to do it. Here's one more. Now what I'm about to show you here I don't use a lot of, and I'll describe why here in a moment, but just a little disclaimer. It's great, you can do it, but I don't use it quite as much as something like a shortcut key or a button on the worksheet. So let's take a look. Here we can add a button to the Excel Quick Access toolbar. Now depending on what version of Excel you're working in, I'm working in the latest and greatest. I got the Microsoft 365 subscription. So here I've got my Quick Access toolbar right here. Yours might be at the top of the screen, or it may not be visible at all. If you don't see it, you might be in the newest version. So you can right click up here at the top of the screen, like where the auto save or save button is. And one of the options is to show the quick access toolbar. Mine's already shown. It's right there. So mine currently says hide. But if you don't see yours, you can say show and it'll show up down below. Now, once it's there, either up above or down below, depending on your version, I can go to the little down arrow, and here you got a whole bunch of stuff to pick from. But what I want to do is more commands. This will open up my Excel options window. And from here you can see that I'm on the quick access toolbar command. I'm going to change it from popular commands to macros. And from here I can grab my add format headers and I can hit the add button. This moves it over to the right hand side. I can hit OK. And I've now got my button right there to run this macro. So just to confirm, I'm going to clear out the headers and the formatting like I did earlier. We already ran it here, right? So let's get rid of that. But now I got a button right there. Done. Done, done, done. Again, so cool. Now, I think that's great. You can have like a whole row of buttons that you work with there, whether they're built-in features inside of Excel or macros. So I'll get rid of it. So try this out, get it up there, just go through the steps so you can see how it works. Now, if you don't. Now, the macro recorder is something, right? Like expense. I'm pretty sure I spelled that right, but maybe I wanted to say expenses or expense. How do we do that? Well, here we're going to get our first peek. We're just going to see a bunch of text. I'm going to go to my developer tab, and back into that code section that we referenced earlier, there's an option for Visual Basic. So I'll give that a click. This is going to open up our VBA window. I'm just going to maximize it, make it full screen here. Now yours might look a little bit different. You may not have the immediate window. I'll just close that. If you got it, great, you can leave it, but you may not have it. I've got the VBA project window open. You may also have the property panel down below, you may have things open, or maybe you don't have them open. Maybe I'll close this as well. Maybe your window looks something like this, just a big gray box. Whatever the case, we can go up to our View tab, top of the screen, and we want to make sure that we have the Project Explorer open. Make sure you got at least that one. In the View menu, Project Explorer. Now, inside of there, you've also got the immediate window. That's what I closed earlier. And some of you might have the Properties window open as well. Here's my Properties window. But make sure you have at least the Project panel, the Project window open. So inside of here, you can see that I've got two projects. I've got one for Solver. This is an add-in. This is something that I activated earlier on in this course. If you took part in the Solver lecture, then you probably have this as well. If you did not activate the Solver, or maybe you deactivated it, EBA project for your active workbook, module in there. Now modules, all this is, it's just a term for where you're going to sub procedure in B. So I'm going to give the module 1 a double click. This will open up that module, and here is my macro, or my sub procedure in VBA. Now you can see it's just a bunch of text, but this is where Excel wrote down all the notes about what you did as you were recording. You can see here the very first line, it's a sub procedure. We'll talk more about that distinction later on. And then you got the name of your macro there, add format headers. And then down below, you've got all the commands that Excel recorded as you were going through the recording process. The first few lines, they're green lines. They all start with a single apostrophe. These are comments. These aren't commands. They don't do anything for the macro. They don't do anything when you run it. Just reminding us that, hey, Control L was your shortcut key. And then down below, I've got all the commands. Now, if you scroll through this, yours might rows up above that I didn't see. So of course, I'll value of that cell, and then we're going to make it equal to region. Let's see. I can keep the line there, right here. I'm just going to clear this off. You could try this out if you'd like to, or you can just sit back and watch me kill it here. I'm going to clear all. I'll grab this down. So it specifically calls out that range to F17, right? If I get back out of here for a moment, let's move that off my screen. What if my data, when I record it, it was C4 to F17, but then later on, maybe I got the north records, which is C4 down to F200. Well, our macro, it specifically calls out that range of cells, C4 to F17, so it will always do that group of cells. Let's take a look. I'm just going to clear this off. You could try this out if you'd like to, or you can just sit back and watch me kill it here. I'm going to clear all. I'll grab this data, then I'm going to clear the formats. And just for fun, I'm going to grab a few rows here, copy them, paste them down below. So like I mentioned, you could try this out with me. You can try it out on your own, or you can just sit back and watch what happens here. Like I mentioned earlier, the macro recorder is great. Love it. It's going to save you so much time. And now the ability, deleting perhaps stuff you didn't need, maybe, well, I've got my headers there. Look at that, expense type got updated, golden. But I look down here and it's still just this range of cells. It completely ignored that. So I could, if I get that window back here, I could go in and say, well, now it's not C4 to F17. Now it's all the way down to F23. Let's change both of those there. I actually don't really even need this second one. I can delete that out. Don't need it. It's just selected again after it did the formatting. So let's move that off. And now if I just rerun it, I'm not going to clear it like I did before. Done. And it's now got the formatting all the way down. Okay. Very cool. So I can make the edits there. But if I want to make it more dynamic, right? I want to make it so it knows how big the data is. Then there's a bit more editing. And that's something we're going to get into as we continue through this course. We'll see how to make, but try something out. Now, when the newer release So in this first section, we just saw how you can utilize the built-in macro recorder to record a series of steps to automate your work, your process, and what might those be? Now we've seen an example here, just cleaning up data. You got a block of data, now you need to add headers, you need to do some formatting. What else could you use macros for? Let me get you started. Maybe it's you do some importing of data every week. I need to go in and import X, Y, and Z data from some other data source. Okay? Maybe that's something you can use. Maybe it's some sorting and filtering that you apply to your data. Once I get the data in and it's cleaned up, it's presentable, now I want to sort the data and I want to filter it for the specific records that I'm looking for. Well, this is all something that you can do manually in this course, and let me know where you will jump in and where you think you can use them to automate.
You now have potential customers aware of the brand and what it provides. However, they aren't ready to purchase yet. Now what do you do next? You build consideration. In the consideration stage of the marketing funnel, you build interest for your product or service. The potential customer already knows about the product or service, and now they are ready to learn more. Now it's important to remember that the strategies we discussed in the previous video still apply in the consideration stage. For example, social media marketing helps build consideration. Content marketing does too. Now a difference between the awareness and the consideration phase is a type of marketing strategy you apply. For example, the content for the consideration phase may be more in-depth and persuasive, such as a case study. The ad targeting will likely be different as well. Previous visitors will be targeted. Here are some marketing strategies and tactics to build consideration. First is a unique selling proposition, also called the USP. And it explains why a product or service is better than the competition. And once a potential customer is aware of the product or service, make sure that the USP is clear and repeated often. Testimonials are when customers provide their experience with a product or service. A well-crafted testimonial can build trust in a potential customer. They imagine themselves as the customer who had a great experience and problem was solved. Testimonials can either be written in audio or in video. Next is case studies, are similar to testimonials, except they're usually more in depth. They are often in written format. A business with projects that last for several months may use a case studies to explain its progression. A thorough case study builds trust in the potential customer. Remarketing ads are advertisements delivered to previous purchasers, subscribers, or visitors to a brand's website or social media. These types of ads are common in e-commerce. You likely have experienced ad remarketing. For example, maybe you viewed one or more pairs of shoes on a website and then later saw ads for those shoes showing up on other web pages or apps you visited. That's remarketing. You'll learn more about this tactic in a later course. Webinars are presentations, typically educational, that are provided online. They are a great way to both educate potential customers and promote your product or service. One challenge to webinars is getting people to attend. You'll want to make sure you're providing something enticing and of value to your customers. Email marketing is when you send promotional or educational emails to an email list. When a potential customer becomes aware of the brand and signs up for an email list, they would like to learn more about the products or services offered. There are many uses of an email list. One strategy to build consideration is to send out educational emails about the products or services. Testimonials also work great for those who haven't purchased yet. Social media marketing is slightly different in the consideration stage than the awareness stage. In the consideration stage, potential customers are now account followers. Post to followers consistently with varied content to build their interest in the brand. Now, that wraps up the strategies to build consideration. Okay, the potential customers have considered the product or service and they're ready to make a purchase. In the next video, you'll learn about the conversion stage, how to encourage customers to follow through, and really make that purchase. Hey there, in the previous video we learned how to build consideration and get customers super interested in a product or service. Now they're ready to buy. The next stage of the marketing funnel is conversion. Think of conversion as the process to get a potential customer to take a desired action. This could be to sign up for a consultation or as simple as coming into the store. For this video, we're going to focus on online purchases. You'd think this is an easy process. Someone visits a website and they make a purchase, but it's not always that easy. What if they have difficulty with the checkout process or get distracted and cannot complete the online transaction? Or what if they're interested in the product or service, but are still undecided if it's right for them? As a digital marketer or e-commerce analyst, it may be your job to ensure the checkout process goes smoothly for the customer. It may also be your job to increase the likelihood that the customer makes a purchase. Or you may be tasked with increasing the purchase volume or total value. Now, both of these jobs have one main goal: to increase conversion rate. The conversion rate is the percentage of users or website visitors that take a desired action. The typical conversion rate of an e-commerce business is around 1 to 2%. For example, if 2 people out of 100 visit a product page and make a purchase, that is a 2% conversion rate. Imagine if you could increase that by just 1 person out of 100. So 3 people out of 100 make a purchase. You can increase the business revenue by 33% with a simple website change. That would have a huge impact on the business revenue. Now that you understand more about the conversion, let's discuss strategies and tactics. Optimize the checkout process. When a customer goes to check out, it should be as easy as possible. Every additional field or page may decrease the conversion rate. A field is any piece of information the customer needs to enter before purchasing the product. For example, do you need their phone number? If not, delete that field. Another optimization idea are to change the purchase button from add to cart to buy now, or consider adding additional payment options such as Google Pay or Shopify's Shop Pay. Add better product and service photos. The quality and number of photos on a web page may drastically affect. the conversion rate. Add high quality photos with varied angles to increase that. Additionally, many e-commerce companies only put photos of their product or service. So consider adding lifestyle photos. Now, a lifestyle photo shows someone actually using the product or service. Encourage customers to add lifestyle photos to their product reviews. Strengthen the product or service copy. When a potential customer reads about the product or service they will purchase, it should be persuasive. The copy is any written material that encourages a customer to buy a product or a service. Make sure the copy is not only explaining the product, but also making an emotional appeal to buy it. Add live chat. Not all companies will be able to add live chat. However, if they can, it could increase the conversion rate. If a customer has an issue with checkout or a product question, they can simply ask the question through the chat. That's better than having them actually leave the web page. If you're working for a small business that cannot staff live chat, they can add chatbots instead. Chatbots are software that answers basic questions for website visitors. Pursue abandoned carts. Now, this is when a customer starts the checkout process and enters their email, but doesn't make the purchase. You may think this isn't common, but it is. Many e-commerce software now come with the capability to send these customers an email. The email reminds them that they still have items in their cart. Some customers with an abandoned cart will revisit the website and finish their purchase. Additionally, this is a great opportunity to send a remarketed ad. The ad will remind these potential customers what's in their cart. Increase website speed. According to a study by the State of Online Retail Performance, for every second delay in page load speed, conversions can fall by 20%. Website speed is something we'll discuss later in the program. There are a few simple strategies to increase the speed of a slow website, such as reducing the size of images. Offer a trial or a money-back guarantee. While this isn't possible for all products or services, you can nudge a customer to a purchase. You typically encounter a money-back guarantee for more expensive purchases. Products I've recently experienced with money-back guarantees include mattresses, glasses, and clothes. Experiment with A/B tests. This is more advanced strategy because it involves analytics. An A/B test is when you compare two versions of a web page to determine which has the highest conversion rate. We recommend that whenever you change an element on a page, you compare its conversion rate to the page's previous version. Generally, you should change one element at a time to get the most accurate results. For example, you could test different main photos for a product. Which converts the highest? The product photo with a white background, outside background, or a lifestyle setup. Remember, A/B tests apply to more industries than just e-commerce. It's for any type of business that wants to make it easier for their customer to take a desired action. All right, when implementing any strategy to increase conversion, you have to keep in mind the return rate. It doesn't benefit a company if, when the conversion goes up, so does the amount of products returned. Keep this in mind. All right. You've taken the potential customer from the awareness stage to the consideration stage to the conversion stage. Congrats, you're now a customer. But are you done marketing? No, you're not. In the next video, we'll discuss the loyalty stage, how to turn customers into repeat customers that support the brand. In the last video, we discussed strategies that turn interested customers into paying customers. In this video, we'll discuss strategies to turn those paying customers into loyal repeat customers. During the loyalty stage in the marketing funnel, customers become repeat customers and brand advocates. Ideally, they become the voices of the brand. Maybe they talk about how great the product is to family and friends. Maybe they make a social media post and share their experience with hundreds of friends. Or maybe they go from being reminded to purchase the service to actively seeking out the service. With the digital tools now available, it's never been easy to get customers into loyal brand followers. At this stage in the funnel, you've already earned the paying customer. None of the following strategies are necessary. However, implementing these strategies will lead to repeat customers and increased conversion rate or conversion value. Plus, you may get loyal customers to promote the product or service and be a voice of the brand. That's free marketing. Now let's go over the post-purchase strategies and tactics to increase loyalty among customers. Reward programs incentivize customers to keep coming back to the business. We experience rewards programs on food apps like Starbucks, Chipotle, and McDonald's. Many point of sale or POS systems now offer reward programs built into their software. Now, a POS system accepts payments from customers and manages their information. Email marketing keeps your brand in front of the customer on a consistent basis. Remember to always craft emails that provide value to the customer. If not, they may unsubscribe. To build loyalty, consider educating your customers or tell the story of the brand. Social shares are when customers share your product or service to their social media followers. It's important to first encourage customers to follow the business's social media accounts. Then, you have to deliver content that they may want to share to their followers. Consider remarketing to paying customers with new ads. While we mentioned ad remarketing in a previous stage of the funnel, you can use it again to re-engage customers. And once you know what product the customer purchased, you can recommend another product or add-ons to the current product. Another way to earn loyalty in a customer is to encourage them to leave a positive review. If a customer has a positive experience with the business, encourage them to write about their experience. The review could be online, such as on a social media account or simply through an email. These positive reviews can be posted as content on the business website, such as a social media page and through email marketing. The thing is, many people love to be recognized on their birthday. Consider offering a discount for your customers' birthdays. You could also provide a discount on the anniversary of the first day they became a customer. Freebies are a way to get customers reminded of the brand over and over again. Freebies could be a sticker, a magnet, a t-shirt, or something related to the business. Like, for example, I recently bought a pillow. And included with that product, I received a complimentary branded sleep mask. Honestly, I thought it was pretty cool. And our last strategy is using confirmation messages. When a customer purchases a product, they often receive a confirmation email or a text. Often those messages are standard and transactional. If they're appropriate for the brand, why not just make them interesting? Add personality to the confirmation message by writing it in a way that makes the customer excited about receiving the product or service. Using descriptive language, tell them how they'll feel when they'll receive the new product. By really utilizing these strategies, hopefully you can turn customers into loyal fans. You'll keep them purchasing more products and services, and ideally, the loyal customers will tell their friends and family about the business too. I just want to say congrats on finishing this section. Wow, I have to say we've covered a lot of marketing concepts and strategies. Now, if you're feeling overwhelmed, remember, you'll be learning more about these strategies in this course and later courses. Let's quickly recap what you've learned. We started by discussing customer personas and how important it is to craft them before creating any marketing materials. Then we went into depth on the marketing funnel. You learned strategies to get potential customers aware of the business. Then in the second stage of the funnel, how to build interest and create consideration for a product or service. In the third stage of the funnel, you learned about conversion, strategies to increase the likelihood of a desired customer action like a purchase. And lastly, we covered strategies to increase the loyalty of paying customers. In a role as a digital marketer or e-commerce analyst, you may be tasked with implementing any of the marketing strategies we discussed. If you feel lost and not sure how to connect with the customer, consider creating a persona. While it may not be required by the organization, it will be helpful with any marketing activity. Think through who the customer is, their goals, and barriers. Additionally, if an organization you work for doesn't have a clear marketing funnel, consider creating one. And when working on marketing an activity, think about where the customer is in the journey to become a first-time and repeat customer. I want to say great work so far in this program. We will meet you in the next video. Hello, let's imagine that a potential customer uses a search engine to solve their problem. If you're a business that provides a solution, you'd want to get found in the search results, right? A really important aspect of digital marketing is getting your website found in search engines. In the following lessons, you'll learn more about how to make that happen. I'll introduce you to how the Google search engine works and how it determines website rankings. I'll explain to you in the structure of the search engine results pages, also called SERPs. Then I'll introduce you to search engine optimization, also called SEO. Now, this is the practice of getting a website found in a search engine results page. I'll discuss the pre-steps to take before you start to consider SEO. And then for your first steps, which include keyword research and organizing a website structure. Personally, I love working on SEO. The thing is, I can say it has been my greatest marketing tool for my brand. But, I must admit, when I first started, it didn't really make sense to me. People talked about keywords and tagging and being found in search engine pages, results, all that. But when I first started, it honestly sounded like I was speaking or understanding a language that I've never read before. After implementing strategies for several months, something interesting happened for my brand. I actually remember a friend reached out to me saying they read one of my articles and saw an image I posted online for my business. I remember thinking, what are you talking about? And I didn't share anything. And they said they were looking for advice on a topic, and my article and picture came up. The thing is, I can't tell you how excited I was when that happened. The thing is, years later, a simple Google search of my name now brings up dozens of images, content, and videos. My online trust and my credibility saves me so much time now not having to re-pitch myself over and over. For me, SEO is one of the best marketing strategies to expand the exposure of a brand online. Welcome to the world of search engines and search engine optimization. I hope you're excited to get started. Before you learn about how to optimize content for a search engine, we need to first understand what a search engine is and how it works. In this video, we're going to cover the three main processes of Google search engine: crawling, indexing, and serving. The Google search engine uses these processes to locate the most relevant content to a user's search query. Just quick disclaimer about the search content you'll learn about. There's no confidential information in this content. It's all available publicly. You can learn more in Google's official search documentation. So, what is a search engine? Think of a search engine as any software that locates information on a search query. As a marketer, you may work with several search engines. For example, in e-commerce, you may work with an Amazon search engine or the Etsy search engine. Every search engine works slightly differently. However, many of the concepts and strategies we cover will apply to all. Let's discuss the processes Google uses to organize information online: crawling, indexing, and serving. The first step the Google search engine takes is crawling, which is the process of finding new and updated web pages. Google explores the internet with automated programs called crawlers. These crawlers find new and updated web pages. And once the crawlers discover a new or updated web page, Google then stores
Jalan dah runtuh, jalan dah runtuh. Jalan dah runtuh, jalan dah runtuh. Jalan dah runtuh.
These page URLs in a big list to review later. A page URL is the web address, such as www.example.com/blog. There are several ways the Google crawler finds web pages. The main way is to follow links from pages already identified. Links are any web addresses on a web page. Let's imagine that as a marketer, you create a new web page for a website. The crawler will primarily discover that new page by a link within the website or from a separate website. Before crawling the page, it will check if it's allowed to do so by the website owner. Okay, once the new pages are crawled, Google then stores them in an index. Think of it as an online index is similar to an index in the back of a book. A book index is a list of content and its associated pages. Similarly, Google stores web content with its location, the URL for each web page. What type of content will Google index? Well, almost anything on the page, including text, photos, and video content. Remember, indexing is only possible if the website owner allows the web page to be crawled. If the owner doesn't want it to be crawled, indexed, and appear in Google search, then they can indicate it in the website's code. After the web page content is indexed, the Google search algorithm goes to work. In this context, an algorithm is an automated software that helps locate information to answer a user's query. The Google search algorithm sorts through billions of web pages to deliver the most relevant content for a given search. The purpose of the search algorithm is to deliver the best results for a search. For example, if you search a product, the results are likely the best available to help you learn about or purchase that product. Now, what does the algorithm consider when ranking a web page for a search? Well, it considers many factors, including what's on a website and information on other websites. Some of the factors are more obvious than others, such as location and language. Google wants to really return results that meet the need of users with a great user experience. We'll discuss 5 key factors such as quality of content and usability of web pages in an upcoming video. Overall, Google Search wants to return results that meet the needs of users with a great user experience. Now, if all of this sounds confusing, don't worry. By the end of this course, you will know a lot more about strategies to rank a website in the Google search engine. When doing digital marketing, you'll encounter algorithms frequently. Generally speaking, an algorithm is just a set of instructions for solving a problem or accomplishing a task. One symbol of an algorithm is a recipe. You want to make a meal, and the recipe provides instructions to make that meal. Websites and platforms use different algorithms to decide what to show users. A search algorithm for an e-commerce site may display the most likely products a shopper would purchase. Factors such as a price and shipping time might influence the results. A social media algorithm may focus on what it thinks is most entertaining for the user. Factors such as popularity and content length may influence the results the social media algorithm provides its users. Okay, you've been introduced to how the search engine works and algorithms. As a marketer, it's likely you'll be thinking about how your website, products, or posts can be delivered to more and more people. It's part of the job. In digital marketing, Understanding how pages show up in a search can help you get the most out of your marketing efforts. In this video, we're going to go more in depth on ranking results in search engine results pages, also called SERPs. We'll cover 5 key factors, which are meaning of the query, relevance of the web pages, quality of the content, usability of web pages, and overall context and user settings. Think of these key factors as concepts. As you will learn, they can be applied in several different ways. That's why creating content to rank high in the search is often open to interpretation. For example, how much information should you write about a topic, and how should you order the information? Would the searcher prefer the content with photos or a video? We'll get into more strategies later. For now, consider these key factors from a search engine's perspective, so you understand what the search algorithm considers when ranking websites. The first key factor is the meaning of the query. A query is simply the words typed into a Google search bar. To return relevant results, the search algorithm needs to establish what the user is searching for. In other words, the intent behind the query. Google's algorithms have created language models to decipher the meaning